Stuart Stoyan, who I got to hang out with last night, which was a bit of fun. Come on, find your face, find your seat, sit down. Katie Hichik, the Associate Director of Export from Investment New South Wales. Glad to have you from across the border too, Katie. And Luke Howes, the CEO of Sequential. Please give him a big hand for our final session of the morning. Thank you.
We're going to talk about payments. Quick, come back.
Does this work? Yeah. All right. Thanks. Everyone can come back. I promise lunch isn't served yet. No. Thank you so much to FinTech Australia and the panelists with me today. We're going to talk about founder war stories and lessons learned to share in case you're thinking of doing your own startup. So I thought it was best to turn to Stuart and Luke to introduce themselves and tell us where they got to and why they're on this panel first. So over to you, Stuart.
Phenomenal, thank you very much. So my first company was actually a web agency, a digital agency back in 2001, which was sold just ahead of GFC. Then I founded MoneyPlace after a couple of years, 2014, at the golden age of FinTech, which we sold in 21 to Liberty. And now I'm operational in 3 businesses. AgPay, I'm an executive director of, which does working capital loans for farmers. Pathways Digital is a workflow solutions tool for contracts and continuing obligations. And Solstice AI is a solar forecasting business that uses AI on satellite imagery to forecast how much energy solar panels are going to be able to generate. And I mean, that's just to set up the context of having been, let's just get it out of the way, you know, a serial entrepreneur. We're not going to say that again, but having actually been in multiple businesses at different stages and different guises, that's going to be sort of the basis that I'll then be coming from.
Great, thanks. Luke?
So I started my first company also outside FinTech back in 2005. I was 25. It was in the telco space. Emerged into something in digital marketing and then actually got into FinTech in 2013 with a business called bankstatements.com.au, which we rebranded as Proviso. We were screen scrapers working with lenders, credit providers. We sold that in 2020 to Ilion, the credit bureau. And after that, we helped found a private credit fund, Rixon Capital, that I'm on the board of now. But my day-to-day at the moment is another software company called Sequential. And we work with banks and lenders and their treasury teams in securitization, helping them monitor and manage covenants and reporting and just taking billions of dollars out of spreadsheets and putting it into software.
Thanks. So, gentlemen, let's stick with the positive first. Looking back, what were the main things that you thought you did well across the founder journey?
I think just showing up is a big one, and it's showing up just time and time again. Like, it's showing up to work every single day. It's showing up to a conference. It's just showing up in front of your customers. It's just being there. It's being really consistent. So I don't think, in sort of reflecting on this journey over the last 15 years, it's very few big moments and big decisions that were the key strategic decision or the key customer to win. It's just like showing up is most of the battle, and you don't always get all the decisions right. You hope you get more right than wrong, but it's just, I think, showing up and then shipping. You got to put product out. You got to take care of your customers. You got to just keep moving forward in those ways.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the key point there is always be moving forward. What is it that you need to do? Whether it's on a sales front, a team front, a hiring front, a networking front, getting out and being at Intersekt and meeting a bunch of people in industry, all that sort of stuff. I think the key thing that sort of helped drive my success, particularly at MoneyPlace, was to be able to just be active. And that also gets to being involved in things like FinTech Australia. You know, like, we're part of, like, it's nice to be relevant again, if I'm really honest, even in the context of, here are a couple of old fogies who've done startups before that you probably don't know. But I think being involved in industry bodies and industry associations and getting involved in some government stuff as well, like that actually really helped propel the business, because you're ahead, you're on top of, and sometimes ahead of the issues, which then helps in terms of just getting a company into that slip lane.
I was just going to say, that reminded me, Stuart, of something else we used to focus on was just solving the biggest problem. Like, what is the biggest problem in our business that needs solving right now? Is it a technical problem? Is it a people problem? Is it a sales problem? And that's what got our focus and attention. And so, like, you're not stopping. You're just trying to fix the thing that is the most important thing for you to fix.
And actually, as we build on that, so we just, okay, thanks, Katie. But also just unwavering belief. Like in terms of actually believing in the problem that you're solving, the solution that you're providing, or the solution that you think that you might maybe be able to provide if tech drops in the next quarter and does it properly. But actually having that unwavering belief and being able to drive it forward, like that becomes the thing. That's the difference between a founder and somebody on a team and somebody that, you know, is aspirationally wants to be a founder but still works, you know, in a traditional role. It's that belief.
So now for the dark side of the force. You talk about self-belief showing up. Does that take its toll on your personal relationships, actually being able to be there for your family, friends? Can we walk through that? Because often that doesn't get talked about as much. It's all, oh, I got this VC to invest in me.
I was joking with Luke before, this is not true, but the line on that would be 5 companies, 4 divorces, 3 kids who don't talk to me, 2 midlife crises, and, you know, a stint in a mental health institution. What it actually is, though, is it's a sacrifice. Like running a business and founding a business is really, really hard, and it's very, very demanding. And so what that does get to is having people around you who can support you, but also appreciate what it is that you're getting into. The analogy... The analogy is like movie stars. Why do movie stars date and marry other movie stars? It's because they understand the industry. There's something to be said then in terms of founders and people working in startups is that it is really hard and maybe you don't have time for the relationships. And I think the best thing that actually happened to me, you know, happily married for 20 years and with a son who's now 10, the best thing that actually happened was COVID. Nobody has ever said that the best thing was COVID, but COVID actually forced me to be home when my son was 4. I spent so much time with him during that time of that sort of formative stage of pre-primary school that wouldn't have got back. And that was just an hour in the morning or an hour in the afternoon or, you know, pick up from kinder and all that sort of stuff, that if it didn't happen, and that helped reorient me to say that actually family is really important, which then becomes a cornerstone for how I run my life now.
Yeah, I agree with those sentiments, and I think one of the reasons I actually wanted to start a company was for my family. So I think I really don't subscribe to the notion that I don't think we get it right when we think, I'm going to get into entrepreneurship, I'm going to start up, and all my family, my friends, my loved ones, my important relationships need to go by the wayside. Like, I wanted to start a company because I actually wanted to have the flexibility to be at my kids' sports games. I wanted to be able to provide for them financially, despite there being the risks in getting into that. But I think maybe back to what you were saying at the beginning, Stuart, like if you have a partner or a significant other, you've got to go on this journey together. And so my wife has been extremely supportive and understanding. Especially when I come home, like, I had a great idea today, I think we need to do this. She's like, well, what about the idea you had last month? And that was going to be the thing. I thought this was going to be it. But going on that journey together was critical because you need a lot of understanding because there's so much uncertainty. And so something you sacrifice, that you asked, Katie, is you sacrifice uncertainty. Like you sacrifice certainty, sorry, because it is just a path of uncertainty. But for me, in this whole process, if the businesses hadn't worked out and the one we're in at the moment may not work out, I don't want it to be at the expense of the relationships that are actually the most important in my life. And yeah, go.
I was just going to say, you went one step further than that. Do you want to share who your co-founders were?
Well, it wasn't my wife, but it was my brother. I started the last company with my brother, and that was one of the things we had to start with. So maybe if you think about a couple of important principles for me, back before we even started this, so it wasn't so much a COVID moment, but I had to make the decision. If I'm going to work with my brother, he's a brilliant software engineer, and I'm non-technical, so we had like really differing skill sets. We could work together and do something special, but the business was never going to be as important as my relationship with him. That at some point, if things weren't going well, I'd have to walk away or he'd have to walk away. We'd just have to choose to be brothers and be family. And you see the horror stories in that space. So, and there were a couple of times, fortunately not many, where we didn't get along or we didn't communicate well because we are quite different. Maybe I'll mention one other experience that I don't share a lot, but it's in the months leading up to launching bank statements. So I don't think we'd even incorporated the company yet. We were building the tech. My 5-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer. And so you realize you have a tragedy hit in your life and you don't have a lot of control over what's going on there. But you can decide, like, well, I don't want there to be other tragedies that flow out of my life by, like, just all falling apart. And so then, like, I was doing first sales. I probably never even told you this, Stuart. First sales for bank statements, I was in the hospital, like, in the hospital waiting room, parents' room or something, just on the phone. And you just, like, put things in their proper order, I think. I just feel really strongly about this, that you can balance a lot of things. You do need to make trade-offs and sacrifices, but you can take the people who are most important to you along for the journey as well.
True founder mode there. I was talking about having an hour with my son, and then you share that. I've not known that. That's amazing that you actually bring
Thanks
that
for
up now.
sharing that. That's deeply personal. And I know you move cities as well, which often founders have to do. In my line of work, there is the school system going to be okay in the US, Katie? And my kid's going to get shot? Those sort of things come to play. But you're right when the partner has to come on board with it, because they may necessarily not want to go the whole path with you. But thank you for sharing that.
Well, just on that as well, an example of where my wife was supportive, like, because I was an entrepreneur, we were living in Sydney at the time, we couldn't afford to buy a house in Sydney when we needed to. All her friends are getting the next house and everyone's moving along. And so I grew up in Adelaide, I was from Adelaide, my brother was down there. So we had to make that decision as a family to move to Adelaide. And it made sense and it felt good and it felt right. But the decisions you make as you go along and you make them together. My son is fine now as well too. That was fortunate. He's 17 now and doing really well.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
So after all the blood, sweat and tears to exit, you guys are cray, you decide to come back and do it again. Why?
Boredom. And wanting to be relevant. No, but what it is though is, and I mean, one of the themes I think of Intersekt this year has been a 10-year retrospective. Where is it we came from, what is it we've achieved, and where is it we're going? Point is, job's not done yet. There are problems to be solved. There are problems to be, there are solutions to be refined. There is, a rapidly evolving space around financial services that we still have things that we can achieve and do. And I think that that's inherent in sort of being a founder, is that you'll look at an opportunity and go, yeah, I think I can have a crack at that. I think I can actually do that. A founder is somebody that looks at 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't do something and finds the one reason why you should say yes. I can do that and I can solve that, and I'll figure out the other 1,000 reasons on the way through. And I think that becomes the thing. The other aspect as well is, if I'm honest, it's about sort of paying it forward. And so, starting something from scratch, which, hats off to you, man. Like that's commendable and also insane, versus potentially stepping in with a team and sort of becoming a co-founder. Andrew's waving at me here, coming in and being involved in a board capacity or a governance capacity and being the chair of something. Or being able to sit there and actually have the honest discussions around, this shit is really, really hard. Like, this stuff is hard. You're going to go out and you're going to fundraise and everybody's going to smile and say, that's great, well done, that's a phenomenal business, but you won't get any checks. Why? That's because that's how fundraising works. Like, being able to actually share those real, true sort of moments with your co-founders and your other team, the rest of your team. I think that honesty is something that you can then do second, third time around that wasn't there first time.
Do anything differently this time, like second, third? Lots.
Yes, yeah. Like I think the key bit for me there is I was elbows out, and what I mean by that is how things going. Let's take MoneyPlace as an example. How things going at MoneyPlace? It's going phenomenal. We're growing at 20% month on month. Team's phenomenal. Customers are great. We've got these funding lines. We've got all these investors. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, but how are things really going? Tech's not where it should be. We just had a massive loss that was unexpected. Half the team just quit. I'm not sure if I'm going to make payroll next week. And, blah, blah, blah is going on in my personal life. I think my wife's going to leave me, and I'm pretty sure the board wants to sack me. But, being that honest with those types of things is different the second time around in terms of being able to, and I would have done differently had I known it. But I also think, we come at this with a couple of successful companies and some sort of unsuccessful companies and some to-be proven companies between us, right? It's really easy to sit here and say, oh yeah, I exited a business that was acquired by a publicly listed company. Oh, this is what I do now. But I do think that having been proven, at least for me, that means that I can be vulnerable, and I'm more than happy to sit there and say, oh, we ain't got this, and we're not sure about this. Can you help me on this? Whereas I think old version of me would never have done that, because if I'm confessing to you that I'm unsure about this, my investors, my customers, word might get out, and then my business will shutter tomorrow.
Yeah, completely agree. I think just going back to your first part of your question about, what was that? Why come a second time? Was that the question? I think for me, personal reasons were, I think you got to run your own race with all of this, whether that's as a startup founder, whether it's an employee, whether it's whatever you're choosing to do with your life. And so I think after we sold, I was trying to give back by like doing some angel investing in other FinTechs and SaaS companies. And I enjoyed that, but when I was honest with myself, I didn't love it. And some people just naturally transition to being investors, but that wasn't me. And I realized that because I'd have calls with founders, and I'd get off the call, and I'd feel kind of sad because I'm like, oh, they get to go figure out how to work out the pricing, or they get to go and do this. And which, when you're back into it, you're like, man, this stuff's hard. But that was what I missed, and I missed two things. I missed working with great customers, and I missed having a team. All of a sudden, I just didn't have this great group of people around me. And when you're running a company, you get to choose who you work with, which is fantastic. And so I missed that. And so I would talk to some of my founders like a lot of days, just discuss ideas. And it even got to the probably a couple of days when I've always been fortunate to have good mental health. There was a couple of days I'm like, is this what depression feels like? This isn't good. And it was a more relaxed life, which I think I needed for a while. But there was a recognition that I needed to get back into being an operator again. That was important for me. And so that's why we started doing it with Rixon Capital, and I thought that might be the thing that we did. But then we actually found a great partner, runs that credit fund now, and realized that's not the sort of business I want to run. I want to get back to doing software, working with clients, building a great software engineering team. I do the sales and the marketing side of that, and that's what I missed. So I think I got back just because I missed what I realized I enjoyed doing. And
if I can build on that, I think having a tribe is so important, and a group of people around you that all share the same conviction and same belief, which then gets into singular focus. If we are solving that problem, then that gives you a really, really clear direction and really clear motivation to be focused in on solving that problem.
Amen to singular focus. Absolutely, that 100%. Was it. Like talking to 5 different companies in a week, it was good, but singular focus, that's where I wanted to make a difference.
The flip side of not having singular focus is actually amplification. So the ability to actually work with founders across sort of 3 or 4 companies on the most important issues. But then I come back and, and Andrew will attest to this, I'm more involved in AgPay than I am in Pathways. But that's because there is a more pertinent problem there that gets to needing to be solved as well. So it's this balance. Have I solved it? No. Am I still unsure? Yes. Will it be different next year? 100%.
And I think if I take a key lesson from that back to first-time founding, if you're in an early company or considering getting into a company, like singular focus is the most powerful thing you can do. Like you talk to founders sometimes who are thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to do a bit of this and a bit of that. And I've made that mistake. Like I did that for probably 10 years and it doesn't end well. And then you realize you need to focus. And people are saying like, focus, focus, focus. And you focus and you give a run at it and maybe it works or maybe it doesn't. But the only way you can actually know is by focusing and testing that, running those hypotheses to ground and testing it. And so I think I felt that, and other people are way better at what do you call it? Just multitasking. Yeah, that's what my wife does. She multitasks. I can't. So.
Thanks, guys. So basically, you guys both came into FinTech, and also myself. Way back, it was like 2015 to 2018. It was like considered the hottest thing around. All drinks were at the bar for free. FinTech
is still hot, Katie. It's still hot.
My point is some of the excitement's worn off, unless you've got .ai. Has that made it challenging, if you've seen new founders coming into the space, to differentiate, to scale, and to operate now generally? Is there as much support? Could you give your view on that?
I think the support's there. Like you have FinTech Australia, you have a bigger community. Like when we were starting out, like in pre-2015, it was a bunch of people who'd never done it before and didn't know what they were doing. And so it was exciting. It was a hot space. It was getting probably a lot more press coverage, I think, comparatively. Now AI is taking a lot of that. But now you have a whole heap of people with 10, 12 years experience in this space that you can call on. And the industry's evolved, probably a lot of the low-hanging fruit. We were just talking about this before, like there's not so much FinTech lenders like there was 10 years ago. That was the big space, but it's hard to start a FinTech lender now. You can still do it. There's areas to pick up, but that's not what, there's a lot more going on in CDR and payments and just AI generally. So I think it's different, but hey, we are where we are and there's no shortage of opportunities in finance, in FinTech to really make a difference. And you'll have a lot more people who are there to support you on the journey as well.
Founders have got it easy today. Back in my day. Now, I do think it's easier and harder, right? So to the stuff that Luke was talking about, It's easier because there's pathways now, right? Like there is FinTech Australia is established. Things like we can talk about ASIC and regulation, but there are a whole bunch of people who have gone through unregulated industries and have been able to get regulation. So there is a pathway through that. There's a well-established, sort of capital ecosystem, whether it's venture capital or venture debt or seed or early stage or whatever it might be, investors. There's a bunch of these people around that didn't exist 10 years ago. But it's also a lot harder though, right? Because some of the sort of easy problems to solve or easier problems to solve have been solved. Maybe not completely, but have been solved in part, which makes it really, really hard then to sort of jump in and differentiate. I also think that the velocity at which technology is moving today as well makes it harder because it's just so much more rapid. And in 2 months there could be a .ai company that opens up that competes with you that does what you're doing but just does it better. And so I think that there's that aspect of it's easier and harder. So what the takeaway then is to be able to learn from the past and tap into the past and recognize that there is a bunch of established founders who have exited and who have all this sort of knowledge that you can tap into. And I think that also gets to some of the stuff that that we do and that we help out with now as well.
Great. So if you ran into a FinTech founder today, and we spoke about this before, maybe not 10, 5, of the most important lessons you could pass over or recommend to the upcoming generation, what would you recommend?
Luke's got a LinkedIn post that he's going to publish straight after this, or he's written these up, so I'm just going to be quiet now and let Luke speak.
No, let me riff on a few and you can give your feedback. I was thinking about this morning and look, we talked about like relationships with family, friends, meaningful ones. We talked about that. I think a big one for me, and I was having this conversation with someone this morning, is $1 from a customer is way more valuable than $1 from an investor. But I think generally in the industry and in the press, there's like raising a lot of money is the sexy thing. It's the thing you get noticed for. And so just focus on the customer and actually getting outcomes where somebody is paying for what you do is incredibly more valuable than chasing down investor cash. I don't know, any thoughts on that one, Stu?
Yeah, no, look, I actually, it's really interesting. So a part of me wants to say don't be venture backed. Why is that? And it's really interesting. So if you've got a massive problem that's a global problem, that lends itself to being able to be venture backed. But if you're not solving a global sort of problem, it's perfectly acceptable to have a business that might be worth $20, $30 million that's kicking over $4 or $5 million of cash a year, like that you own 100% of, right? And it's the old sort of adage of, are you better off being the, founder and CEO of a unicorn company that you own 1% of, or are you better off being 100% owning a business that's worth $10 million that gives you an amazing lifestyle as well? Like net, it can still be the same, but it's really, really interesting in that sort of debate there. So I think what that sort of then gets to is think about what it is that you're looking for as well in terms of the outcomes that you want for yourself. Some of it is glamour. Some of it is being part of the FinTech literati. But it's also actually just about running a good business. And I think a lot of startups that I see that fail and founders that struggle now is that they've set their sights on how is it that I can be the next, Airwallex or whatever it might be, as opposed to just running a really good business that meets client needs, that has customers, that has revenue.
100%. Like I think there's such an importance. If I would go back to the start, or if you're starting, like you got to run your own race. But the things that you see in the AFR and the Australian are Airwallex has just raised this, Canva's just done this. And my personal example of this, and I don't even know if I've ever said it to you, Stu, but back in like 2015, like I'm in Adelaide, head down, just trying to do a business. I'm not good at PR. It's not my space. And I see this guy, Stuart Stoyan, is in the paper like every second week. And like, who is this guy? What's he done? But like Stuart's good at PR, and you had like PR team and you're doing it really well, and that was part of you running your race. But it was part of me also, and not just Stuart, but like when others are out raising cash, So we bootstrapped bank statements, and so we were never going to be in the press for doing a big raise, and that's just something you have to be like, okay, this isn't about the publicity. It's not about like the pride or the ego. So let's get back to work and service our customers really well. And I think that can be so distracting. It's like, oh well, yeah, the only way to do this is VC and go big or go home. The unfortunate reality, like you said, a lot of the founders we know, they end up going home and they burn years of their life because VC is right for the right company, but there's a lot who take it where it's not right for them.
I just think on that PR point, so thank you.
Don't defend yourself. Embrace it.
Well, no, I am embracing it. The press will take questions later on. But what that actually gets to, and the story behind that I probably haven't told you, this is just us now bonding, is never waste a crisis. So we're entering so this is a consumer lending platform in a sort of peer-to-peer marketplace space. So lending to borrowers but taking money from investors. Completely unregulated, and ASIC, we were told at the start it should be 6 months to get your license. Sweet, all right, we'll give it 9, 10 months, build the platform, then expect to be licensed. It took us 19 months to get licensed. So we had a platform ready to go. We had investors ready to go. We were ready to go. Platform built, all dressed up, but nowhere to go and party. So the opportunity then was, okay, well, let's get involved in speaking. Let's do the speaker circuit. Let's talk about innovation. Let's do media at every opportunity.
And so it wasn't just promotion for the sake of promotion, it was actually building a business.
Yeah, it was about building the business, which then in turn happened, which was then when we did go live and we launched and we announced that we had a regional bank that had backed us and funded us. We then had 6 inbound queries from other banks that said, we want to tip into. But that was because you had that presence. But would I have focused on the media as much if we're up and running? Hell no. Like if you see a founder now that was in the media as much, you'd be like, well, who's running your business? And so it just becomes one of those things. But that was also an opportunity when, journalists were happy to speak to founders back in the day. Now there's a long waiting list to be able to get up and start off daily.
Should we take some questions for a couple of minutes?
Yes, let's go to the audience. Do we have any questions for our founders?
We should have flagged this earlier to get people thinking if they have.
I know it's just before lunch. Yeah. No.
So what is for lunch is a question.
I think there might be an array of sandwiches.
Right, show of hands. Who is actually a founder? Who identifies as a founder? All right, so we've got a few. Who is part of a founding team? Who has aspirations of being a founder and is stuck at a desk and enter random bank name and is thinking about this idea and wants to be a founder, but something's holding them back? What's holding you back?
Financial responsibility to the day-to-day. So I need to make money to pay my mortgage day-to-day. My wife's a barrister. If her career kicks off and I got 2 kids, that'd be great. But, you got to be able to have a bit of a runway to be able to get in front, and your family has to take that risk with you. So, you've described about being divorced a few times. I'd like to stay married as long as I possibly can. So maybe if I get divorced, I'll become a founder.
I was joking about my personal situation, happy married, 1 kid. He wasn't joking about the fact that you had a sick kid, but it is really real. Just on that, let's talk about the misnomer of, founder struggles and founder success stories of, dropped out of high school to create $1 billion company. A lot of founders will come from a position of privilege and a position of financial stability, and that is a massive advantage. I founded my company when I was in my early 30s. That was after a semi-successful career, earning pretty well, where I could take on debt and self-fund a business and do that. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. Maybe if you're 18 and you don't have anything to lose, but that becomes the thing of what is it you have to lose. There's a great story about Mike Cannon-Brookes and Atlassian, which is, it was founded off the back of credit card debt. Yeah, but Mike Cannon-Brookes' dad, like Mike Cannon-Brookes Sr., was a senior executive at Citibank. Like, they were a very, very privileged and wealthy family. You look at a lot of this sort of stuff of propped up and where, mum and dad tipped in, but that becomes the thing. So there is something around that, but you have to embrace risk. He was also a struggling cranbook boy. Yeah, 100%.
You're right. You need personal runway, you need financial runway, I think. So, like in your relationship and financially, and you got to be on the same page. I think I was fortunate, like if I was young when I started company about 25, and so I just learnt to do with little for a long time, which led into that. It's pretty hard when you're earning corporate salary and you're saying goodbye to some significant money. But once again, like if it's important and you think you can do it, back yourself. Like I really believe if you can work it out, maybe if it's a side hustle at the beginning, if you can get a few people around you and one of you can sell and one of you can build something, or you build something and you can go out and try and get some early customers, it's that dollar from a customer is worth something. It's worth something real. If you can sell it to one customer, I think you probably sell it to 2 and 3, then 5 and 10. So get started with something if you've got the idea or got the insight. And a lot of you working in big companies will see where the waste is. You'll see where the inefficiency is, and that's a problem that's worth going after. And as you start to get a bit of traction, you'll be able to get some investors or some team on your side to go on the journey with you, and then it starts to de-risk it a little bit as well as you go along.
Great. And also, obviously, just a quick plug. If you are a New South Wales headquartered company and you're looking to scale, come and talk to me and my colleague Sarah. Thanks. I won't get kicked out by the Victorian government, hopefully. Okay.
Also, for a quick plug, if you're looking for a couple of experienced founders who've been there and done that, you'd like to join your board or advisory board with a pretty sweet in-the-money options package, Luke and I will be hanging out, and we'll see you at lunch.
Thanks, Stu.
Thank you so much.